Stay in touch with us on Facebook and Instagram at Younique Yet Connected. You are now listening to episode 89. The theme for this episode is The Shadowed Mirror, Inheriting the Unseen Gift.
What if the most powerful, necessary strengths you possess is the very trait you spent a lifetime condemning in a parent? Imagine severing the connection to a mother or a father because of the pain they cause. In doing so, you don't just cut them off. You silently reject 50% of your own life force. You become blind to the essential gift they handed down, turning away from your own core power just to maintain the purity of your heart. Today, we step into the Constellation Field to reclaim the shadowed mirror and find the profound, overwhelming relief that comes when we finally choose heritage over hurt.
Welcome to Younique Yet Connected. I'm Nolita Ozwa Fenton Itolokazi, the explorer of the unseen, the unheard, and the untold. The space holder, seeker, and sacred witness in the work of systemic family constellations. As always, I'm not alone. Kinga and Nika on the other side of the virtual. Over to you, Kings.
Thank you, Noli. Hello, dear listeners and co-editors. Hello, Nick. This is where we explore the hidden patterns that shape our lives. I am Kinga Silaji, facilitator and guide through the field where unseen truths rise to the surface. Together we walk the invisible terrain of the family soul, where the wisdom that speaks is when the system reveals itself.
Thank you for joining our movement of translating the wisdom of systemic family constellations into a practical language that all of us can easily understand and, most importantly, implement in our daily lives. The blindness and the blocked connection. This is the Field Knows series, where in each episode we share the stories from the field that are from our workshops and individual sessions. Imagine a powerful, life-giving river. Now imagine a single submerged stone, dark with sediment, blocking the flow.
That stone is the unhealed hurt we carry against someone we love. When we carry that hurt, it renders us blind to the life force, the very flow that person gifted to us. We think we are protecting ourselves, but we are actually starving our own roots.
Sure. The deepest wounds often reside within the primary systems, our family. When we sever the connection to a parent due to pain, we don't just cut them off. We perform a spiritual and biological amputation on ourselves.
We carry a silent, impossible command. You must reject half of who you are to be safe. It is a state of purity that leads to a profound sense of emptiness, because you cannot exist on only one half of a heartbeat.
The tragedy is this. Our ability to fully love ourselves is tied to our ability to recognize and integrate the unique, precious gift handed down by both parents. There are no exceptions in the law of the system.
Yet when one parent is labeled the guilty parent, the source of our pain, we find it nearly impossible to locate any positive trait in that shadowed mirror. We convince ourselves they gave us nothing but trauma.
Our client enters today carrying an unmistakable weight. a lifetime of striving to be different from their father. They are successful and compassionate, but their relationships hit a ceiling of inexplicable loneliness.
They feel incomplete, like a puzzle with missing pieces. In the field, we invite the client's hurt into the center. The energy that enters is sharp, dense, and instantly hostile toward any suggestion of reconciliation.
This hurt is a dedicated sentinel. It is not just a feeling. It is a soldier guarding the gates, protecting the client from the perceived risk of connection. It believes its job is to keep the poison of the father out.
We then invite the representation of the guilty parent. The client physically recoils, her whole body tightening as if bracing for a storm. The hurt sentinel immediately steps forward, creating a solid wall between daughter and father.
We ask the client to observe this wall. She says, I can't see past the anger. When I look at him, all I see are the mistakes, the absence, and the cost. Is a void where a father should be.
This is the core inside. The hurt is the lens. It distorts the image of the parent until they are stripped of their light. When the lens is this dark, the client is unable to access her own power.
We introduce self-love to the field. Self-love attempts to move toward the client, but it is met with an immediate, deep resistance. The client cannot receive it because she doesn't believe her whole self is lovable.
The client says, I can only love half of me that is like my mother. The other half, the half that belongs to him, feels broken, defective, and unworthy of my love.
The path to wholeness is blocked by an internal decree. You cannot be whole until you are pure. And purity, in this context, means the total rejection of the father's essence.
We see that the client is not fighting her father anymore. She is fighting the 50% of herself that shares his DNA. She is in a state of civil war within her own soul, and she is losing.
The search for the unseen gift. We begin the deliberate, challenging work, the search for the inherited gift. We ask the client to list her positive traits, her kindness, her curiosity, her attention to detail.
We then ask the impossible question, which of these came from the guilty parent? The client's answer is immediate and cold, none. All my good traits came from my mother. He gave me nothing.
The mind is fiercely loyal to its protective narrative. If the parent is the source of all darkness, the client remains safe from their influence. But the field does not accept lies of separation.
Life is only handed down through two channels. You cannot reject the channel and keep the flow of the water. If she is alive, there is a gift she is using right now that came through him.
We now shift the inquiry, not what do you like about him, but what is the most defining energy he carried? The client hesitates. She recalls an anecdote, her father's singular focus on a hobby.
Despite everyone telling him it was a waste of time, he never stopped. She says with a tone of dismissal, he was just stubborn. He was stuck in his own world, ignoring everyone else.
In the presence of hurt, we see stubbornness. But in the presence of the field's neutral light, we see tenacity. We see relentless, unyielding persistence.
We ask the client to physically invite the energy of tenacity into her body. regardless of where it came from. The client resists, her body stiffening against the tainted source.
Finally, she allows the movement. She stands taller, her gaze levels. She begins to feel a familiar fire in her own belly, a fire she usually calls her professional drive.
She realizes that her own relentless work ethic, her ability to focus on long-term goals when others quit, stems from this exact fierce energy she saw in her father.
Wow. The discovery is a shock to the system. The quality she relies on most for her own survival, her persistence, is the exact energy she spent a lifetime condemning in her father.
The gift was there all along, hiding behind the mask of guilt. It was the hidden gold inside the leaden box. She had been using his tool by cursing his name for 30 years.
The realization is profound. We pause here. The client must sit with the dissonance. The same energy that gave me pain is the one that gives me strength.
The walls of the hurt sentinel begin to crack. The sentinel looks confused, as if its mission to protect is no longer valid now that the poison has been revealed as fuel.
She looks at the father's representative and sees him differently. He is no longer just the guilty parent. He is the source of tenacity. The shadow is becoming a mirror.
This is the moment where the shadowed mirror begins to clear. The client is finally looking at her heritage without the blindness of her hurt. You are still listening to Younique Yet Connected. Theme for this episode is The Shadowed Mirror, Inheriting the Unseen Gift. Remember, when you comment, ask questions, like and share our content and links, you help us grow and change lives together. Like us on Facebook and Instagram.
Releasing the blindness and integrating the half. The discovery of the gift. Tenacity. The field shifts. The energy in the room softens. Self-love now approaches the client again. This time, there is no barrier, no wall.
The client is no longer trying to love pure heart. She is beginning to love a complete whole self. She realizes she had been fighting herself to maintain the purity of her story.
Now she is faced with a choice. Remain loyal to the head or embrace the gift. She takes a deep breath and steps toward the father's representative, her heart pounding.
We invite the client to speak to the representation of the guilty parent. She says, I see the pain you caused, and for the first time, I see the tenacity you gave me. I can't reject my strengths.
This is the moment of sacred separation, separating the gift from the wound. She takes the treasure of persistence and leaves the burden of the mistakes with him.
When the gift is accepted, the hurt sentinel's duty is complete. It transforms into a quiet space of acknowledgement. The pain is remembered, but it no longer dictates her identity.
We invite the 50% of the self that was disconnected to step forward. This half is radiant, powerful, and whole. The client steps forward to meet it with open arms.
The meeting is instantaneous and visceral. The client weeps, but this weeping is not the sorrow of the past. It is a pure relief of coming home to her own power.
The relief comes when a lie of separation is dismissed. The full, complete self is finally assembled, and the deep loneliness she felt for years begins to dissolve.
This relief is the evidence that the wound has begun to heal. The energy she used to spend on rejection is now released back into her own life, fueling her dreams.
The inner bond is mended. She no longer looks for external validation because she has finally validated the 100% of her own biological and spiritual truth.
She turns to the Father's representative and gives a small, respectful nod. She isn't excusing his past actions, but she is honoring the life that came through him.
The shadowed mirror has become a window. She sees herself clearly for the first time. She is her mother's daughter, and she is her father's daughter.
She feels a new kind of solidity in her faith. The ground feels firmer because she is no longer standing on only one leg. She is balanced and she is whole.
The session ends with a profound healing silence. The guilty parent is no longer a monster. He is a human being who passed on a flame despite his struggles.
And the client is no longer a half-self. She is a woman who has reclaimed her 100%. She is ready to walk into her life with her full strength.
Reflection exercise.
We want to take a moment for you, our listener. This work is not just about the stories we tell. It is about the story you are living right now. Close your eyes if you are in a safe place. Think of that shameful jealousy, that resentment, or that part of your parent you have spent a lifetime rejecting. I want you to ask your inner child a question. Did I hide my light so that my mother or father wouldn't feel alone in their darkness? Did I reject my own strength to stay loyal to their pain? Now look at that rejected parent in your mind's eye. See the trait you judge most harshly. Ask yourself, what is the strength hidden behind this behavior? What is the power I am missing? Imagine your adult self walking toward that inner child who is still holding the deal of smallness. Reach out your hands and look into their eyes. Say to them internally, I see your bravery. I see your loyalty. But the deal is over. I'm taking you home to our own light. We are finally allowed to be unbeatable. Feel the weight of the rejected half stepping back into your body. Feel the warmth of the 100% self beginning to glow. You are allowed to be whole. Breathe into that wholeness. You don't need to be pure to be powerful. You just need to be integrated. As you open your eyes, hold on to that sensation of being complete. The shadowed mirror is no longer a source of pain. It is a source of power.
Key lesson and integration. By the end of the session, the guilty parent was no longer defined solely by their guilt. They were simply a human being who struggled, but who still managed to pass an essential life force, the gift of tenacity.
The client understood that we don't heal the pain by rejecting the source. We heal the pain by reclaiming the gift that came through that source.
We learn that the greatest act of self-love is the act of integration. You cannot love 50% of yourself. You must claim the full 100%.
Honor the pain by acknowledging it, and then honor yourself by receiving the gift you have spent a lifetime turning away from.
So tonight, as you settle into your own rhythm, maybe ask yourself this deep, gentle question. Where in my life am I still blindly rejecting a necessary strength because it came through a source I judge? And what relief awaits when I finally choose to see the unseen gift?
If this theme resonated, if you feel that subtle ache of being disconnected from a part of your own strength, perhaps it is time to find that shadowed mirror and reclaim your whole self.
Join us at Younique Yet Connected, because sometimes the greatest act of connection isn't with others, but with the parts of ourselves we left behind.
Thank you for your contribution in helping us be chosen as a top 10 South Africa family podcast by FeedSpot. We are all so thrilled to be ranked among the best 30 family therapy and best 10 family secrets podcasts by A Million Podcasts. To celebrate our growing community, join our monthly virtual connection circle every first Tuesday evening of the month. To receive your link, subscribe on our website www.youniqueyetconnected.com or check for updates on our socials at Younique Yet Connected.
In the next episode, we still share with you how the field reveals the roots, the repetition, and the release.
And along the way, we will guide you in understanding how this work can support your own healing, because the field doesn't just know my story, it knows yours too.
So take a deep breath, open your heart, and join us as we share with you what the field knows.
Because sometimes what you are searching for isn't outside of you. It is waiting quietly in the field for you to remember.
A big thank you to you for listening to our episode, and to Nick Mons from That Guy Productions for making us sound fabulous and on point.
For episode 90, tune in on the 8th of March 2026 from 10 a.m. South African Standard Time for links and updates. Stay tuned to our Facebook and Instagram pages at Younique Yet Connected, Younique spelled YOUNIQUE.
Stay unique, stay connected, and remember, you are one of a kind, and we can only create a really meaningful podcast together. Siyabulela kosonom bayadanki. Thank you.
Siyabulela kosonom bayadanki. Thank you.